While Western Australia and Queensland continue to reap the benefits of the resources boom, there's growing concern that Australia is becoming a two-speed economy. The country's smallest state, Tasmania, is already showing alarming signs of an economic slowdown. Consumer spending is down, and forecasts of a $1 billion black hole in the state's finances have new Premier Lara Giddings warning of a horror budget. Martin Cudahy reports from Hobart.
The town of Scottsdale is perched among the scenic hills of northeast Tasmania. For years, the forest industry has provided the economic lifeblood. But times are tough, and Scottsdale's 2,000 residents are only too aware that pretty scenery doesn't pay the bills.
What's the future, for our kids in the long term? We need to make something. We need to export something.
At its height, the timber industry supported 2 major sawmills here, but one has since closed down and now lies dormant. The other is still running, but on borrowed time. It's expected to close at the end of March.
Well, anyone tied with the forest industry are worried. There's no major positive information coming forward about that sector.
We've lost so many businesses here. There's probably 10 businesses gone out of this area. And I think Scottsdale and I think the whole state is going to be in a bit of dire trouble, I believe.
Just 4 years ago, Kelly Gerke's logging and land clearing business employed 130 staff and turned over $1 million a month. Now he's down to just 4 employees and is battling to avoid bankruptcy.
Just retrenching people and selling vehicles and just basically a matter of survival at the moment.
Is the timber industry dying?
I believe it is. I think it's in huge trouble.
Tasmania would still be struggling even if the forest industry was booming, but the difficulties that the forestry industry is having and is likely to have over the years ahead are certainly making the problem a bit worse.
It's symptomatic of a deepening gulf between the so-called boom states and the rest. Tasmania's average weekly earnings are nearly $300 behind those in Western Australia, and that gap is expected to widen in the coming years.
Tasmania has very little of the sectors that are positively influenced by the resources boom. There's a little bit of iron ore, but there's no coal and there's no gas.
Do you think Tasmania at the moment is at the slow end of the two-speed economy?
We're certainly not in the fast end of the two-speed economy.
Tasmania's Premier and Treasurer, Lara Giddings, has been in the top job for just over a month. She's inherited an economy facing a bleak future.
We are heading to net debt in about 18 months' time. That is why we're taking this very seriously and why I have announced some decisions today that will not sit well with the community.
The latest financial report forecasts a $1 billion hole in the state's coffers. The government is already warning it will hand down a horror budget in June. That includes shedding the equivalent of 2,300 full-time jobs from the public sector.
If you're getting rid of 2,300 full-time jobs, or the equivalent of, it actually works out to be 3,450 real people when you take into consideration part-time jobs.
We don't want to see any wholesale redundancies of public servants, but I would be lying to say that we cannot at least have some targeted redundancies in the toolkit should that be required.
We're going to have to make sure we get that right. That part of it actually is a spot-on message.
Union bosses are now planning their campaign against the job cuts. The CPSU General Secretary is Tom Lynch. He believes the flow-on effects will kill off 10,000 jobs across the state.
The knee-jerk reaction of sacking 3,500 workers is certainly not the solution. I believe it's likely to lead to greater deficits as the economy slows, rather than being an economic plan that has a future for Tasmania.
Adding to the pain, consumer spending is down, but unemployment is about 5.5%. And while other states are growing, Tasmania's population is relatively stagnant and it's ageing rapidly. A quarter of the population will be older than 65 in 8 years. So, observers believe the state now needs to consider privatising major assets like Hydro Tasmania and the state-owned power company.
Labor governments in Queensland and New South Wales have been willing to contemplate and undertake sales of major business assets. There's no reason why the Tasmanian government shouldn't be prepared to contemplate that with at least respect to some of them.
I'm not going to rule in or out anything. It's really important that we have all options available.
Back in Scottsdale, the town's population is dwindling, along with the jobs. It's a town that could become the Tasmanian template. Almost 1 in 10 homes are for sale. The family behind me didn't want to appear on camera, but their story is an all too familiar one here in Scottsdale. The husband had a logging contract with the timber company Guns, but not anymore. And so now the whole family is moving to Queensland in an effort to find work.
There's brick places, brick veneer for probably 150, 155, 3-bedroom homes. So affordability is not the problem. And the issue is that we've got to be able to attract people here with jobs.
How you going, fellas? Kelly Gerke won't be leaving. He's staying to pick up the pieces. But he's worried his hometown will die a slow death.
I don't know where it's going to end up for Scottsdale, really. It's going to be pretty sad here because a lot of people are going to have to leave to find work. There's just no other alternative.
That report from Martin Cudahy.